Welcome to section 7 in our project risk management knowledge area. Now this is going to be our last section in this knowledge area. In this section we'll be covering a very important process, which is monitor risks. So we've gone through the process of identifying the risks, assessing the risks, quantifying it, assigning values to the risks, taking actions, planning our responses to those risks, and then taking action towards mitigating the risks. Alright, now how do we monitor the risks? Alright, that's what this section is all about. So let's jump in and get the details. So an overview of the monitor risk process. Monitoring risk is an essential component of effective risk management. In this section, we'll delve into the ongoing process of tracking identified risks, assessing their status, and ensuring that planned risk responses remain relevant and effective. Right? So this has to do with tracking the risks. Where are we in terms of the risk so far? What is the status of the identified risks? All right, and also in terms of responses to those risks, and even in terms of the significance or the magnitude of the impact that is going to have on the project outcomes. Okay, so it's about tracking exactly where we are. Now, by the end of this section, you should be able to understand the purpose and importance of the monitor risks process, identify the inputs, tools, and techniques, as well as outputs of this process, learn how to track identified risks, and assess planned risk responses. Okay, so having said that, let's move on. Now, what are the objectives of this process? Firstly, it helps us to continuously monitor identified risks throughout the project life cycle. Okay, so you keep tabs on the risks so that they don't go overboard and actually affect your project outcomes or objectives. Assess the performance and effectiveness of implemented risk response. So monitor risk will also help us in assessing that. Identify new risks and evaluate their potential impact on the project. Alright, so that's for that. Let's move on. So what are the inputs in this process? Firstly, we have the risk register. Now this is a comprehensive log of identified risks, their characteristics, and the planned responses. Okay, so this time around it's easier to use the risk register because you have all the information you have of them logged in there. Risk response plan. The documented strategies for managing and responding to identified risks. Okay, so you're definitely going to have a system or a process by which you manage and respond to the risks that have been identified. Okay, so that's what the risk response plan is all about. We also have the work performance data. This is information on how the project is progressing concerning risk management. Alright, so that's it. Let's move on. And let's look at the tools and techniques in the monitor risk process. Firstly, we have risk audits. Now this involves evaluating the effectiveness of risk responses and the overall risk management process. Okay, variance and trend analysis. This helps us to assess deviations from the planned risk responses and analyze emerging trends. Okay, these are actually statistical tools that help us to, understand the size of the deviations, if there are any. All right. Technical performance measurements. Evaluate how well the project is meeting its technical objectives and whether risks are impacting performance. Okay, so that's it for the tools and techniques. Now let's look at the output of the process. Now, what are the outputs in this process? Firstly, we have the work performance information. Now, these are data on how the project is performing in relation to identified risks. Okay, so risks could be high, yet the project is performing very, very well. Okay, and vice versa. Change requests. Modifications to the project plan or its execution may be required based on monitored risks. Okay, so those are the outputs for the monitor risk process. Now let's look at some key takeaways from this process. Firstly, monitoring risk is a continuous and iterative process, so it doesn't end. All right, something that goes on, and you keep improving on it as you proceed. Regularly assess the effectiveness of implemented risk responses. Very important. Stay vigilant for new risks that may emerge during the project life cycle. As a project manager, ongoing risk monitoring is a dynamic process to keep your project on track and resilient to uncertainties. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this section and also the end of this week and model. All right, so I want to urge you to go ahead and jump into the quiz section and just test your knowledge, all right, for what we've covered so far. Look forward to seeing you in the next module. Cheers. Bye for now.